So welcome to the workshop. I want to just give a brief introduction so you know who is giving this information. My name is Jenny Bergren, and I have been volunteering with Homeschooling for College Credit for about 5 years. I have 3 daughters, 2 have graduated, and then my youngest will be in 11th grade next year. So all of my daughters have participated in the PSEO program, and they've taken CLEP and they've taken DST exams, and they've done ACE credit, and they've done NCCRS. So we've kind of done it all. So this workshop is going to be focused mainly on PSEO, and not because it's the most important way to earn college credit, but because it doesn't have a lot of information out there about it. We have a lot of information on the Homeschooling for College Credit website about other forms of college credit like CLEP and ACE and stuff like that. So this is really just going to be focused on PSEO. So we're going to start with an overview, but rest assured we will be getting into a lot of specifics as we go along. So PSEO is actually the Post-Secondary Enrollment Options Act, and it's a Minnesota statute, 124D.09, and that defines how the program needs to be administered. PSEO is a dual enrollment program, and a dual enrollment program is a very broad term for something, and you're going to hear that nationwide. And then PSEO is the specific dual enrollment program that is available in Minnesota. So it's kind of like facial tissue and clinics. So facial tissue is the broad term, and then clinics is a more specific brand with distinct qualities and specifications. So outside of Minnesota, everyone says dual enrollment. They're not going to understand PSEO, but PSEO is a dual enrollment program. So what is dual enrollment? Well, dual enrollment allows students to simultaneously earn both high school and college credit by enrolling in and completing a college course. So in other words, they're able to take a college course and earn college credit, but they also earn high school credit, and you would put that on their high school transcript. In Minnesota, the PSEO program is available in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. It can be done on campus or online, part-time or full-time, and both public and private universities participate. So before we get into all of the information, I wanted to start with this because I think it's important that you know where the information comes from, because there's a few sources of information for PSEO, and each source has its own goal that it seeks to accomplish, and that informs how the information is provided and what information is provided. So the first source of information is the Minnesota Department of Education, and their goal is to help you to comply with the law. They want to make sure that the program is administered as it is supposed to be and as the law intends. So if you have questions about the statute or its interpretation, you want to contact the Minnesota Department of Education. They actually have a very well laid out PSEO page, and there's a contact person that you can contact. I've emailed her a couple times and she's very quick at replying. So there's a lot of great information there. Participating colleges and universities are also a great source of information, but their goal is to enroll your student. And so that's what they're going to be focused on. So if you have questions on admissions requirements or available courses, you're going to contact the college. But it's important that you always go to the source. So here's an example. So this past year, when I was researching 10th grade PSEO, I was told conflicting information by 2 colleges. College A told me that my 10th grader could not take general education courses during her second semester. They had to be career and technical education courses. College B said that she could take general education courses. Now, I'll explain that policy later and what they were referencing, but the important piece is that they should have given me the same information because it's sourced in the same place. It's from the PSEO statute. And so I contacted the Minnesota Department of Education for clarification, and they confirmed that she could take general education courses. I pass the information on to College A, and they assured me that they actually knew that, but that particular staff member didn't. And so they would train her. So again, that's why you just always want to go to the source so you can get the absolute right information. And then another source of information is your friends and the Homeschooling for College Credit Facebook page. And the goal of that source is just helping, right? We just want to help. And so if you're looking for advice based on experience, or if you're looking for help just finding, where do I even find this information? That's a great place to go. So here's kind of the agenda for tonight. And again, we're gonna try to get this done in an hour. So I'm gonna try to talk fast. We're gonna go through all the program specifics. We're gonna talk about a few planning strategies, and then we'll save some time at the end for a Q&A. So first, the program specific. So the first question is, how much does PSEO cost? And the answer is, it is free. There is no charge to PSEO students for tuition, for books, and there are no fees for items that are required to participate in a course. This is really, really unique. There are other states, a handful of other states that have free dual enrollment, but I think Minnesota is the only state that provides free books. Books for a college course can cost upwards of $100 per course. So this is a huge benefit to us. There are just a few exceptions where your student may be charged. There might be a class where the equipment will become the student's property after the course ended. Then they would be charged. You would know upfront about that though. If you don't return your textbooks, you will be charged. And if you have to do a placement retest, you would be charged for that too. So this information on this slide is not really necessary for you to use the program, but I think it really helps to provide context to help you understand how the program works. So how is it funded, or who pays for PSEO? Well, obviously the taxpayers pay for PSEO, but how does that work? The Minnesota Department of Education reimburses participating institutions a flat rate, and that covers tuition, books, and any fees required. And so all colleges, public and private, are reimbursed the same rate, regardless of what they would charge a regular college student for tuition. And as you will see in a few slides, there is a huge variance in the tuition rates of colleges in Minnesota. And so the rate for this year is $226.62. So not all colleges participate, but a lot of them do. We have a ton of colleges that participate. All of the community, technical, and public universities participate. Those are on the left side of the screen. We have a little over half of private colleges participating. And then there's kind of this outlier, Opportunities Industrialization Center, Summit Academy. If anyone ever uses them, let me know, because I'd be interested to know your experience. But they have a construction program and I think healthcare. So it's not a college, but it's very hands-on, and it looks like a great opportunity for someone. So these colleges all participate in 11th and 12th grade PSEO. They don't all participate in 10th grade PSEO, which we will talk about later. That is kind of its own has its own program requirements. So this graph shows all of the colleges in Minnesota and their tuition rates. And the colleges highlighted in yellow at the bottom do not participate in PSEO. So on the left side of the screen, you have the community and technical colleges in green. And then on the right side in red, you have the University of Minnesota and private colleges. And it ranges from 5,600 on the far left to well over 60,000 on the far right. This is per year for tuition and fees. And so this is important for two reasons. First of all, you can see at a glance how much money you can save by using PSEO at these institutions. If you take a mid-range private college like the University of Minnesota, that's $35,000 a year. If you go there 2 years, you can end up saving $70,000 in tuition. And the second reason that this slide is important is because it helps us understand Why some don't participate in PSEO. The ones on the far right are really expensive. And you remember with the reimbursement rates, like $262 or something like that. So they're not participating. It would financially would be a great loss for them. Even the ones on the right that do participate, Gustavus Adolphus, St. Catherine, Hamlin, they have very limited participation. And so they're not enrolling a ton of PSEO students. And then the colleges in the middle, those are for-profit colleges. And so they're not really interested in participating in this program either. So as I said before, 10th grade and 11th grade and 10th and 11th and 12th grade PSEO they're a little different. And so we're going to talk about them separately. They have different admissions requirements, they have different testing, and they have different classes. So first of all, 10th grade PSEO has an admissions requirement that is not in the 11th and 12th grade. And this is per the statute. And that requirement is that your student needs to have a passing score on a reading assessment. This can be the 8th grade MCA or a substitute reading assessment accepted by the college. So when my daughter just finished 10th grade PSEO this year, and they had her take the Accuplacer test and they paid for it. That was her reading assessment. You also need to meet the admissions requirements that are set by the institution, and these are set by the institution, not by the PSEO statute. And then in 10th grade, and this is different too, your student can enroll in one course the first semester, and that course has to be a career and technical education course. And if they do well, if they get a C or better, then the second semester, they can enroll in additional courses, and these can be general education courses. So what are career and technical education courses? Well, according to the statute, what's allowed, these can only be at public Minnesota state colleges. They have to be part of a career and technical education program. They cannot be general education courses. So even if it's part of the career and technical education program, if it's a general ed, you can't take it your first semester of 10th grade PSEO. For example, perhaps your program requires you to have a speech class. That's part of the program, but it still doesn't qualify under this statute. And so examples of qualifying courses would be Intro to Engineering, First Aid and CPR, and Intro to Marketing. Now the colleges decide which, as long as they follow these rules on the right side of the screen, they decide which courses to offer. Some colleges open up their entire catalog and say, as long as it fits these qualifications, you can take it. And some colleges say, no, I don't think so. Here's a list of 10. You have to choose one of these. So that is determined by the college. For 11th and 12th grade PSEO, the admissions requirements are again set by the institution, and private and public colleges and universities do participate. Again, I don't remember if I think I mentioned it on the last slide, but if I didn't, private universities and colleges do not participate in 10th grade PSEO because they do not fit the career and technical education requirements, because they may have a class that maybe is a career class, but if they don't have a specific program for that class, then it doesn't qualify. And so at this point, it has to be a public institution, community, technical, or public university. In 11th and 12th grade PSEO, the college gets to set the testing requirements. And so that's institutional policy. Some colleges say, no, you don't need to have any testing. Some will just accept if you take the CAT test for homeschool, they'll accept that. And some have other, various policies. So you have to always check with them, and they change it every year. So it could be different next year. And then classes also are determined by the institution. The PSEO policy gives the institutions a lot of flexibility and autonomy in this. And so as long as they are in accordance with the PSEO statute, we'll talk later on about classes. There are a few things that they have to be in order to comply, but otherwise the college gets to decide what courses to offer their PSEO students. So this slide is for all the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade PSEO. How do you apply? When should you apply? And which test is required? And for all of these questions, the answer is check with the college. And this goes back to what I said at the beginning of go to the source, because things change, they're updated, they're changed. And so you always want to go right to the college. In terms of the application, a lot of colleges have a PSEO page on their website, and it lays out their application process. Common requirements are providing a high school transcript and test scores. Again, not always test scores, sometimes not. When should you apply? Common due dates to have your application in are April through June for the fall semester and October to December for the spring semester. A good rule of thumb that I like to follow is whenever I start a new semester, I look ahead to the next semester to find out when the dates are and I put them on my calendar. That way you're sure that you don't miss them. And then which test is required for admissions? Well, this is going to vary greatly from college to college. So again, check with the college. And then again, I know I'm pounding this, but if you walk away with one thing, it's go to the source. You can ask your friend whose son did PSEO 3 years ago at the institution what test he needed, but that requirement may have changed. And so you always want to check with the college to see what they want this year. Colleges or classes in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. So colleges determine the classes that they will offer to PSEO students, and these classes will vary between colleges. The statute does require that PSEO classes are non-sectarian. That means they can't be affiliated with or restricted to a particular religious group. So this means that you wouldn't be able to take, for example, biblical theology, because that's specific to one religious group, but you could take world religions because that has a variety of different religious groups. The courses cannot be remedial or developmental. Colleges have different course numbering systems, but generally if something is below a 100 level, it's a remedial course, and those would not be covered. And then the statute requires that PSEO classes meet the graduation requirements of the high school. Now, as a homeschool, you set these requirements. So this means that your PSEO classes must appear on your high school transcript because they are dual credit classes. Your student is getting credit for college and credit for high school. Now, this is why there's been a lot of chatter lately, the last year or so. Colleges are requiring people to fill out different types of forms. Sometimes it'll be when you're applying online or maybe a paper form, and they want you to list the classes that your student has taken, and then they want you to list the classes they still need, and they want you to list the classes they're going to take through PSEO. I think what they're doing is they're trying to comply with the statute of making sure that these classes are they're going to end up on the high school transcript. But I don't want you to fret about this. Don't fret about like putting the right answer down. They're just trying to comply with it. And again, you're the homeschool. You decide which classes they're taking. So it's it's a newer thing and it feels like more paperwork, but I think that's where it's coming from. And then just remember that courses are designed for adults, and they probably will have adult content. I hear every year parents who are just shocked at what some of the classes have. And so just be forewarned about that. So, one more thing about classes. How many classes should your student take? This is a good question. And it's really something that you should think about and evaluate and discuss with your student. Some students, they may be ready for a full load, but some may benefit from starting with just one class, which is why 10th grade PSEO is such a great thing, because you have to start with one class. But remember that even if they take one college class in high school, it puts them ahead. But keep in mind that the grades they earn will go on their permanent record, and that could affect future college applications or scholarships. And you are required to report all college credit that you earn to any future college that you enroll in. So just be cautious. Don't overload your teen with too many credits. It's hard sometimes because it's free, and so it's hard to limit it, but just know that there is wisdom in doing so at times. But also watch the due date set by the college to drop a class. If you drop a class, it doesn't appear on your transcript at all. And so there's no negative to dropping a class if your student is just not able to handle the load that you thought they could. You could also withdraw from a class. That does put a W on your transcript, but a W is a better option than an F. So there are, just be aware of those things. So I included this slide because I wanted you to see the guidance that the colleges have to follow. And this information is taken from the PSEO reference guide as outlined in the PSEO statute. And so the first quote says, a post-secondary institution shall give priority to its post-secondary students when enrolling 10th, 11th, and 12th grade students in its courses. And what this means is the college has to let their regular college students register for courses first, and then let the PSEO students register. And so this is important to you as a parent because your student will be the last group to register for classes. And so even if a class is eligible for PSEO, that's not guaranteed there will be space for your student in there. And so just make sure that you always have a backup plan when you go to register. And then the second one says, it is the post-secondary institution's right to establish enrollment eligibility into the PSEO program. And this just explains why colleges have different enrollment requirements and why it's okay that they have different enrollment requirements. Some are more selective and have more requirements. Some are open enrollment. Everyone is, well, not everyone. They do have some restrictions as with the GPA, but some are just more selective. And the expensive private colleges just don't admit many PSEO students. And even the University of Minnesota only admits 45% of the PSEO applicants. So there's a couple things that you need to be aware of as a parent and that are your responsibilities. So the first thing that you need to do is you do need to continue to submit your letter of intent to continue homeschooling as long as your child is a PSEO student. And this may go beyond the compulsory education age of 17. So the reason that you're submitting this is not to comply with the compulsory education age, but in order to have funding for PSEO, because your student has to be a high school student enrolled somewhere in order to get PSEO funding. And so it's important that you continue to submit that. And then the second thing that you need to do is you need to maintain the high school transcript. Every college asks for this as far as I'm aware of in PSEO. And so every year you're going to need to turn in a new high school transcript, an updated one. And when you're doing the high school transcript, just keep in mind that 3 college credits equal 1 high school credit. So classes have different delivery methods, and they also have different names. So even though I have these listed on the screen, other colleges could use other names. I know the University of Northwestern has a different name that it uses. So but these are kind of the basic ones, just to kind of give you an idea when you're thinking about what option you want for your student. The first one is on campus. And so your student would attend on campus with other post-secondary students. Again, post-secondary means they've graduated from high school and they're enrolled as an adult college student. Your student could take classes online asynchronously. Asynchronous means that they complete it on their own time with deadlines that are set by the instructor. So they don't have regular meetings that they have to go to. They could choose online synchronous, and that means that they would be online, but they would have scheduled meeting times with their instructor or with classmates. A newer option is a high flex option. My daughter did this one of these classes this year. And with the high flex, you get to choose. And when I say choose, I mean like every day you get to choose it. You could choose a different option, but you get to choose if you want to attend on campus, online, or complete the course asynchronously. So you could choose on Monday to go on campus, on Tuesday to log into the Zoom and do it online. And on Friday, you could say, I'm just gonna do it asynchronously. I'm gonna go to the course site and see what I have to do for today. So very flexible. And then there's also homeschool co-ops. And for those, you would attend the class at a homeschool co-op with other PSEO students 1 day per week with teachers from the college or tutors hired by the co-op. And then the rest of the week, you would work online asynchronously. And so the 1 day a week that you're at the co-op, I think they work on like projects and activities related to the class. And so another thing you need to think about is just, do you want them on campus? Do you want them online? And this chart kind of helps you think through that. These aren't necessarily pros and cons. It's just this is what this is like. So if you have them go on campus, you need reliable transportation. If you do it online, there's no transportation, and you can access colleges outside of a local area. For on campus, the schedule is fixed and you need to be there at certain times and certain days. But online, there's more flexibility depending on the delivery method that you choose. The on-campus learning style obviously would be attending lectures and learning face-to-face with other students, whereas the online would generally be more self-directed and independent, again, depending on the delivery method you choose. And then the deadlines vary. Sometimes they are given throughout the course, or sometimes some courses are self-paced and there's one deadline where everything is due. You would know before you register for classes. I think you would know. I shouldn't say that. It depends on the college, how that would work. But on campus, communication is primarily face-to-face, and this is really important. Your students need to be able to advocate for themselves. They need to be able, they need to feel comfortable going to the professors, going to the different offices. If you want to talk to the college about your student, there's a specific form you need to fill out, and it limits how much information you can actually get. So that's important to know. If they take the class online, most communication is electronic. Sometimes you have to make a phone call, but mostly it's done through email, through discussion forums, and through student portals. And then the nice thing about that is, as a parent, you're able to mentor and guide them as needed. If you go on campus, the technology, you have access to computer labs and tech support. If you do it online, you need your own reliable computer and internet connection, and you do need basic computer proficiency. Obviously, if it's online, there's a lot of computer work. And then the social aspect on campus, there's many opportunities for social interaction, not only with PSEO students, but with adult students. So remember, they're all mixed together, they're not separated. And then online, there's very little, if any, social interaction. So real quickly, we're going to run through some planning strategies, but I wanted to start by sharing that when I first started researching PSEO, my oldest is 23 now, so I don't know how old she was, 16 maybe, because I was a little late to the game. I was talking to friends and going to seminars, and it just felt overwhelming. And the message that I heard, although maybe not the message that was communicated, but the message that I heard was that the best way to use PSEO was to walk out of high school with a high school diploma in one hand and a college degree in the other hand. But at that time, and with that daughter, I knew that planning a degree in high school would not be a good fit for our family. And so I literally chucked the whole idea. I had this all or nothing mentality. If I can't do a degree, it's not, what's the point? Now, at the last minute, I did enroll my daughter in PSEO, and it was a great experience. But I want you to walk out of here tonight very clearly hearing me say that there are different ways to use PSEO. And the best way to use PSEO is the way that fits best with your family and with your student. So different families are going to have different goals. And I want you to think about what your goal is, because that's your goal will determine the amount of planning and research that you will need to do. So it's important to know what your goal is. So here are a few goals that people might have. Perhaps you want to add advanced classes to your homeschool. Homeschool curriculum is important, or is expensive, especially if you're going to do science labs, and PSEO is free. So maybe that's your goal. You just want to have some advanced classes. And maybe it's efficiency. It takes less time to complete a college course. Some college courses, they do like an 8-week semester course. And so you can do in 8 weeks what would take a whole year in high school. Maybe you want your student to explore interests, or maybe you want them to earn their first year of college, finish, about 30 college credits, so that when they graduate from high school, they can jump right into their sophomore year. Maybe you want to complete the Minnesota transfer curriculum, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, or maybe they want to earn a certificate, an associate degree, or a bachelor's degree. So whatever your goals, we can help you. And you know what is the best fit for your family. But knowing that there are a variety of goals, my approach to this section will simply be to provide you with a few resources and tools, and not to overwhelm you. If you have more questions, you can go into our Minnesota Homeschooling for College Credit Facebook page. You can always message me. I'm happy to answer any questions. But we're just going to go through a few tools that I think would be helpful for you as you're planning your PSEO for your student. And so the first thing is the college website. Now, this is super important. It took me, when I started researching this stuff, I was so frustrated trying to figure out these college websites. I felt like I could not find the information. And so for everyone, whether you're degree planning or whatever your goal is, this applies to everyone, find the PSEO page and use it, because it will have your deadlines, your admissions requirements, your available courses, contact information, all of that stuff. So that's super helpful, super important. Find that and use it. If you're degree planning, you're going to also want to find the degree plans, and those are generally under the academics menu. You're going to want to find any transfer equivalency charts, for example, the CLEP or the DSST. And then you're just going to want to read policies, really read the policy. I always try to find everything in writing. I've been told the wrong information from one too many advisors, and so I just like to get everything in writing. So read the policies. But the gold stars of the college website are the search bar and the catalog. And I'm not trying to be oversimplifying this, but the search bar is so incredibly helpful. Don't even mess with trying to find stuff in the menu. Just go right to the search bar. Sometimes the problem is you're not really sure which term to search, and that can be a little difficult, but the search bar is super helpful. And then the catalog. The college catalog is basically the college website minus the marketing. Super helpful. How do you find it? You put catalog into the search bar and it will bring up the catalog. Sometimes it's a PDF download, and sometimes it's just a separate section of the college website that has a separate menu that you would navigate through. But it has all the policies. It has literally everything you need. And again, it takes away all that fluff that's kind of a little distracting, all the marketing. So that's the college website. The second thing I want to talk about with planning is the Minnesota transfer curriculum. And the Minnesota transfer curriculum is a signed agreement between public Minnesota colleges and some private colleges. And the purpose is to help students to transfer their coursework and general education between institutions as a package. And so if a student completes their entire MnTC, which I'll explain in a minute what the MnTC consists of, but if they complete their entire MnTC at a participating institution, then that student's lower division general education requirements are considered complete at any participating institution. So in other words, their gen eds will transfer as a complete package, and the courses will not be individually evaluated by the new college. So how does this work? Well, the MnTC is a curriculum that has 10 goal areas, and those goal areas are listed on the right. Now, each goal area has a big blurb, at least a paragraph of what that goal area consists of. So these are basically just the headings of the goal areas. And colleges create classes that fit into these goal areas. So for communication, there would be a blurb on what that class needed to have. And so they would create an English composition class that would contain those elements. And then that would check the box for that communication goal area. So when a student checks all of the required boxes, their general education credits will transfer as a package. So what are those boxes they need to check? Well, they need to be 40 credits, total of 40 credits. They need to be general education classes that fit into these goal areas. They need to hit all 10 goal areas, and they need to have a 2.0 GPA minimum. So if they check all of these boxes, that will transfer as a package. The receiving college will not look through those courses individually to see if how their college transfers it in. They will just mark the whole thing as complete. If you're degree planning, this is super helpful. But even if you're not degree planning, this is helpful because this gives you some guidance in how to choose classes. If you choose classes that are part of the MnTC, they're more likely to check a box in a future degree plan. Now, I've been talking about an entire package, but there are two other ways that you can transfer using the Minnesota transfer curriculum. You can transfer as a goal area. So let's say you don't do all 40 credits, you don't do all 10 goal areas, but you finish everything in the communication area. That will transfer as a package to a new college, participating college. The other one is that the courses can transfer within a goal. And I just learned this, yes, today. I was so excited because this applies to my daughter. She is taking a class, or she's enrolled at, I'll just say College A. It's Northland. It's called Northland. She's enrolled at Northland, but I wanted to have her take a class at North Hennepin. She wanted to take ASL. Well, the ASL class is not offered at Northland, so I wouldn't know how it transfers. But the ASL class at North Hennepin checks the box for goal area 8, which she needs checked. And I know now that because they are both participating, when she transfers that ASL class, it will check the box for goal 8 at Northland. I hope that wasn't too confusing, but it's a great way to make sure you're not wasting time taking things that aren't going to transfer. So one of the biggest concerns that people have when they are degree planning is they want to know, will it transfer? And it is hard to know for 100% because you are planning years in advance of enrolling at the endpoint college, and things change. Maybe the degree plan at the endpoint college will change in that time. So you can't really know for 100%. PSEO classes generally have a high likelihood of transferring because they're at regionally accredited institutions. But the better question, instead of saying, will the course transfer, the better question is, will the course fulfill a degree requirement in the degree plan at your endpoint college? Because a course can transfer from college A to college B. But if you don't even need that course in your degree plan, then it really hasn't done you any good. So really, you want to find out, will it check a box in your degree plan? And we have a great tool that's very easy to use for this. It's called Transferology. It's a website, and it's basically a transfer database. And Transferology will show you, it will help you determine how a course will transfer in and how a course will transfer out. So many Minnesota colleges update this database. They even, from a lot of the colleges on their website, will refer you to Transferology to figure this stuff out. It's not as helpful if you're using an out-of-state college. Not all of them update the database. So it's very easy to use. You would simply create an account, and then you add some courses, and then you click a button and find out which courses will transfer to the other college. This is a great resource if you're running what-if scenarios, and you can also figure out CLEP and DSST on here. Keep in mind that this database is only as accurate as it is updated, and the college always has the final say. So some final tips. The first one is always save a copy of syllabus. This is so important. Put a reminder on your phone, create a file, or create a, not a file, you know what I mean, on your computer, create a place where you're going to put all the transcripts or all the syllabus. Is super important. If you ever transfer to another college, they might want to see the syllabus to see if it's going to transfer in. You can also request the syllabus before you sign your student up for PSEO. But some classes or some colleges and professors are more accommodating than others. You can also take classes at more than one college. My daughter is doing that this year. And the reason you would want to do that is because if you're at college A and your student really wants a class and they don't have it, you can just take it at another college. And then do the math. Every class or CLEP that your student completes in high school is one they won't need to take after, providing it transfers, but this can literally save them thousands of dollars. So I've included some helpful links on here because I'm going to send the slides out. Actually, I think I'm going to post them in the Facebook group. So go to the Facebook group to find all of this information. And then again, check in our Minnesota Homeschooling for College Credit Facebook group. If you're not part of it, join. If you have questions, I really encourage you to ask there. I'm more than happy to answer questions if you message me, but you're helping other people by posting it because they probably have the same question. And then if you need more help, there is individual consulting available. If you go to the Homeschooling for College Credit website, it's on there somewhere. I'm sure it's pretty easy to find. So I'm going to actually go back on camera, and maybe Carrie will too. I asked Carrie to give an update because there is some legislation that passed today. And so I asked her to give an update on that. Go ahead, Carrie, I'm going to go on mute.
Yeah. So in this, I guess it was earlier this week, Governor Walz signed a bill that modifies the statutes that Jenny referenced. And the main modification is that it adds another layer to institutions that are eligible for participating in the PSEO program. And so it says that participating institutions cannot require of their PSEO applicants that they sign a faith statement, which there are a handful of Christian colleges in Minnesota that currently do that. I don't have a comprehensive list, but it includes University of Northwestern St. Paul, Crown College, Bethany Lutheran, North Central, and most of those require that faith statement for students who are participating in the on-campus classes. And often students in the PSEO program participate in those on-campus classes to ensure that they get the lab. So if you have a student who's aiming for like nursing or something, you might have them take biology with a lab on campus versus taking that online because it may transfer more easily after high school. But those colleges would either need to choose to forego having PSEO students sign that faith-based statement, or, and my understanding is all of those colleges have said that instead they're going to opt out of offering on-campus PSEO. They are also in the process of challenging that legally. And so, we'll see where that goes, but that law takes effect July 1st of this year. So if you have a student who you imagine is going to participate in current students currently enrolled are grandfathered in. So if you have a student that you imagine would want to take on-campus classes at an institution that requires that faith statement, I would really encourage you, if you haven't already, to make sure you talk to them and see if you can complete that application process now, even if you were waiting till spring semester, and see if they will accommodate that given this legal challenge that's going to go into effect on July 1st.
Thank you, Carrie. So I wanted to make sure I left some time at the end for questions. So if anyone has questions, or Carrie, if there were, excuse me, any questions in the question box that needed to be addressed.
There weren't questions. I added a few comments, but
Okay. So if anyone has questions, you can either put them in the box, or you can go on mic and ask the question. Okay, so I don't see any questions. If someone is typing, I don't think I can tell if they're typing, but you can always ask questions in the Minnesota Facebook group. We would be more than happy to answer them there. And again, when you ask questions there, you help other people who probably have the same question. They just think it's stupid and they don't want to ask it, but there are no stupid questions. So feel free to do that. So with that, we will end the Zoom. Thank you all for participating, and hopefully we'll see you in the Minnesota group.